Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. What will we talk about today? I don't think you'd let us talk about anything else apart from the Supreme Court judgment that's been handed down. We were just, joking with the producers that, I bet most of our viewers probably is saying that, look, tomorrow we'll get our own 2 bits in, as to how this has gone. Indeed, you're very welcome to. That is where we shall be going. The Supreme Court has actually thrown out the appeal, dismissed, maybe to use the words that they used, has dismissed the appeal of Atiku Abubakar and the PDP, saying that it lacks merit. Now, as far as the law goes, I think I'm done. That's about all that I understand. The thing lacks merit. However, I'm not going to leave you hanging. My guest is Mr. Dapo Akinyosun, attorney at law, in fact, lead counsel at Simons Cooper Partners. And, I just found out by chance that you actually were in this case from the very, very beginning. But first of all, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mr. Folari.
Thank you very much for coming on. Yori, please. Now, here we are. First question I'm going to ask is that, were you surprised? Because when you go to the court, I was just saying to myself, not being a lawyer and all that, there's no way the court is going to say it's a draw like they could say in football. Someone's going to win and someone's going to lose. Were you surprised when the Supreme Court dismissed for lack of merit Atiku and the PDP's appeal?
Surprised? Not really. I was expecting it. And maybe we should put it this way. Because I saw the case from inception, I went through parts of it. It was, what doctors call, I don't know how they use it, but when you bring a patient that is dead on arrival, they say one is dead on arrival. I think that can lead to interpretation that he died when he came in or otherwise. But there are some that they call brought in dead.
Yes, okay.
That even before he came in, he was dead.
Okay.
I think that was more of the case in this situation. The case was brought into the court dead.
From a legal point of view, you didn't like the case from the very beginning.
It really didn't make sense. The theory of it was very funny. And as you went through the case, it was clear that this case was really not going anywhere. So, but I believe the courts still have a duty to listen to him.
Okay.
Perhaps there are some things that people from the outside cannot see. And that is why you're given a chance to come to trial, bring your witnesses, show the case that you really have, and then it can be judged on the merits.
And now, the former vice president and PDP candidate in the election, whose appeal has been dismissed now, he's made a statement. Essentially, even though you can't really do that, he doesn't agree with the Supreme Court. But he didn't go ahead and say as much. He said he's done all that he can from a democratic point of view and was making some allusions. But be that as it may, this decision was what you lawyers call unanimous.
Correct.
What's the significance of that?
The significance of it being unanimous is that means all the judges that sat on the matter, there are 7 judges who are all independent-minded and thinking differently, but all 7 of them came to a conclusion and said, this appeal lacks merit. It shows that there's not even one of them that said, maybe there's a case there. Maybe it should have gone the other way. But all of them unanimously agreed that there's no case in this, and it was dismissed.
When you said no case, I realized that as a lawyer, you almost might be using them interchangeably between no case and lacking merit. But I wanted to ask you that when the court pronounces that there is no merit in the matter before me, as indeed the Supreme Court has done now, what exactly does that mean in terms of trying to understand it?
Okay, so let's look at it from...
Yes, and just being able to dismiss it. There would have been some planks, some principles. This is not there. You guys are lawyers. Why did you bring this? This one, I'm surprised this has come. That's the way I, as a non-lawyer, am interpreting this almost cavalierly, that why did you bring this? Well, since you did, I'm throwing it out.
Yeah, short of saying that even you that brought it should be sanctioned for bringing this kind of case before us.
Okay.
And wasting our time and the time of the judiciary and the resources of the court. Because really, when you look at it, the case had been thoroughly examined by judges of the Court of Appeal, and they dealt with all the issues that were raised one after the other. And so the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court looks at it and says, all the things you are bringing before us, all the points you are canvassing, are issues that have been raised and dealt with already. And therefore, there's really no point in having to have brought this before us at all. Although they have reserved the reasoning, they say we'll tell you all our reason later. But one thing is clear at the get-go, without wasting any more time, this case lacks merit.
So what was in this kind of a case? Do you have also the defense? And it's not like that, is it?
Yes, on appeal. I mean,
so where the president was defending?
Yes, the president was the respondent.
It was the respondent.
Yes.
Now, in this kind of, what has been the case, just for the benefit of non-lawyers, what has been the main reason that the PDP and Alhaji Atiku thought that they could pursue this matter? Because they would have advanced some planks that would have been knocked down. But what were those planks?
I mean, the first plank, which was dealt with, was the issue of that. They said President Buhari lacked the necessary educational qualifications to become the president. And they hinged this on the constitutional provision that says whosoever will be the president of Nigeria must be educated up to school SAT level. That's what the Constitution says. The Constitution did not say that you should provide your certificate of school SAT or whatever. It just says you should be educated to that level, and stops at that. But it is now how they were seeking to interpret it, to say that he did not attach his certificate to his INEC forms. I said, no, the requirement did not say attach it. It only says you must satisfy us that you're educated to this level. And without a doubt, the president was able to show that not only was he educated to that level, he even had superior education beyond secondary school level. He brought his classmates in the course of the trial. He brought his classmates in secondary school to show that we were classmates. They had photographs that they took in school showing that we're in the same school. They brought results which were tendered by WAEC and also even from the UK that, look, this man did these exams. So beyond any doubt, he had that basic qualification.
So this is one of the things that had been determined at the appeal court stage, that the Supreme Court appears to have reiterated.
That the Supreme Court said, so why are you bringing this again? This matter has been dealt with. And anyway, when they originally filed the petition, that was not one of the planks they put in. It came up later during trial. And that is one of the things that the respondents, Buhari, raised in. Look, this wasn't even the main issue. But however, in spite of that, I will show you that I'm more than educated, more than qualified to be that.
As per the constitutional requirements.
As per the constitutional requirements.
Okay, let me just interrupt, if I may, for a bit, because Mr. George from home would like to... good morning, Mr. George.
Yes, good morning, Uncle Yori.
So were you surprised as well with this judgment?
There's nothing like surprise, Uncle Yori. The petitioner and his party knew very well that they had no case. I think it is just like fulfilling all righteousness. According to their Dubai Accord, which came to the public space, I think that is the area the federal government should concentrate on now. I'm told that they would, the plan is to fuel insecurity in the country if they lose the election, which has already manifested. The federal government should look into that to see how and who are behind the escalating insecurity in the country. That's what we just need to do. As to whether there is merit on the appeal or not, everybody knows, even the petitioner knows.
Mr. George, to be fair, there's something of an innuendo in what you're saying, and we don't have any proof.
Let him take me to court. And I will come there to prove my case.
Because we can't say stuff like that. You know, Mr. George, we can't say stuff like that. I understand that you're saying that it's in the general kind of thinking, but we can't say stuff like that. It's an innuendo. You haven't said anything directly, but it's an innuendo.
I'm sorry if it is an offense on, according to your code, but these are issues in public circulation that came up long ago when that meeting held. Some people attended that meeting secretly to find out what they were discussing.
The Dubai Accord?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much, Mr. George, giving us something of a curved ball. But thank you very much. Now, you were saying, Mr. Akinyoshun, that that was the main plan.
Well, the main plank is what he also mentioned, was that they said they got some results from a server.
Yes.
That there was this server that they had access to. They've been able to get the results from the server. And based on that results, that they won, that PDP won the election. And they tendered the results from that server. And you could even see from what they tendered before the court that it was filled with inconsistencies. The results from the so-called server showed that there were only three contestants. It showed the results of APC, PDP. And based on that, they showed the accredited number of voters. And I won't give you the exact figures here, but for instance, it was said that the total number of accredited voters was 10 million. When they finished allotting the votes between PDP and APC, there was an overvoting by about another 10,000 from the results they tendered before the court. So they had about 10 million and 10,000 votes in what was tendered before the court. Now, out of that 10 million, 10,000 votes, all the scores were divided between only APC. All the votes were divided only between APC and PDP, and did not show that there was any other candidate that contested for that election. So from the get-go, you see that the results that they were even tendering from this so-called server was wrong, because there were so many other presidential candidates. All the votes could not have only been divided between two candidates. Secondly, this server was said to have been found out in March. This was a week or so after the elections, is when they discovered that we're getting the results from this server. Who created INEC says we don't have a server.
Because I was going to go, you've been saying the so-called server. Because I was going to bring up the fact that INEC says there isn't even any server.
INEC said we don't have any server like that. You said we'll come and show INEC that you have a server. So they bring in an expert to court who comes to tell the court and says, oh, this server, he also discovered it online, published by some anonymous person that cannot be stated. So if their own witness is saying the owner of the server is anonymous, PDP is saying it is INEC server. So already you can see that there are so many discrepancies.
Indeed.
The number of votes...
maybe we'll come to that. But Bob in Jos. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Uncle Yori. I'm morning to your guest there. I can see that you are still discussing and have me on after you have been communicated that I'm on the line. You know your guest is always with you. We that come from outside, you should always pay attention to us.
A thousand apologies, Bob. A thousand apologies. Bob, can you find it in you to forgive us?
Concerning the...
Yes, thank you very much.
Ruling, you know, right from the democracy... No, I've accepted your apology. I've accepted, Uncle Yori. You are a nice man. I think when you are wrong, you accept you're wrong. That's what is expected of every responsible human being. Well, concerning the issue of this court ruling, we should all be aware that right from the time of democracy, you understand me, right from the time of democracy of this country, the one I know vividly very well, that of Second Republic, that has to do with Shagari and Awolowo. You know, you should know that even that time Awolowo took Shagari to court. But Awolowo never survived it. You understand me? That is on the presidency level. Since that time to date, no presidency case, no presidency election case that survived the court issue. You understand me? It's only on governorship case that survived court issue. But coming to presidency case issue in the court, it has never survived from the time of Second Republic of 18, even up to now. I think we have to do something.
So what's the point you're making? What's the
every presidential case that comes to court has never his blessing from the court.
Okay, thank you very much for calling in, Bob. He couldn't hear me. There's a time lag again. So when I was trying to interject. He couldn't hear me, but I was going to say. So, what exactly are you saying? I got the impression, but I didn't want to put words into his mouth. Was he saying that, look, if it was a governorship kind of an appeal that had gone all the way, you could expect, different results. But I think he was implying that, like Atiku Abubakar was saying, no, if we've gotten to that stage, and that is why Atiku Abubakar was making those kind of comments, that something about hostage, and in short, that it wasn't level. You couldn't get any more level than the Supreme Court of the country, I would have thought. And this is where it stops. That's why I was saying earlier that he appears to not have fully accepted it. But sorry, you gotta. There can't be any draw.
Yep. And unfortunately, several times, and I think I said this once before, that we always tint or attempt to tint the courts and blame them for cases that are not well prepared or not well won. When a party fails to win his case, he always tends to blame it on the court. And everything is always, the courts are corrupt. No. That is not always the situation. And we need to be careful in just generally blaming the courts for every inconsistency. Okay. Even when the party doesn't show up in court on time, they blame the court for nonsense.
One moment, please. Mr. Yakub, good morning, sir, and thank you very much for calling in.
Thank you, Mr. Johnny, and good morning to your guest, Mr.
Yakub, you just demoted me in there before it used to be chief. You brought it down to Mr.
No, you are a chief. I did not use Mr. You are a really
just
chief.
Just joking. Please carry on.
Thank you very much, Jerry. You see, with due respect to the last caller, I believe that he has his own personal opinion. Likewise, me too. That is why this program is very, very unique. And then it's one of the programs in this country that giving every individual opportunity to let his own point. So I would say that, for me, I think if the judgment of yesterday goes to the other way around, I think Mr. Bob would say the judiciary is the last hope of common man. I believe, with due respect to the opposition party, I believe everywhere they want a court case, the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. But if they lost the case, they will say the judiciary is unfair, the judiciary is that, the judiciary is this. Look at what Mr. Bob said. You cannot win a case in a court. The judge that wants to hear your case, he's going to base his judgment based on your argument in the court. Let me give you a typical example. You want to prove a case of a presidential election petition, and then you brought somebody from Kenya to come and testify in a court. And then the person that was not even know the terrain of this country is just telling us he has SAFA, he has this. And then you want to prove your case in a court, and then you are not telling us that Mr. President did not go to school. How do you go to get the judgment based on all those fictitious arguments? So, Mr. Yeri, the Supreme Court is already put the candidates and the PDP where they belong to. The only thing I fight for them is this. Whether we supported this government, if they did something that is wrong, we also come out and tell them that they did wrong. But what the PDP and the candidates of the PDP need to do this time around is to work in hand with the incumbent government and then make sure that this country is going to a higher level. Why am I saying that is it? Usually, this country belongs to every one of us. And then I give kudos to presidential candidate of PDP. Because he went to the court, he goes to the court, Supreme Court, he goes to the appeal court, and he also went to the Supreme Court. So when you now get the final judgment in the Supreme Court, the only court that you cannot go is the court of God Almighty Allah. And then you cannot go to the court of Almighty Allah if you don't die. So I wish every one of us stay alive, and then we will always see the good governance in this country because we are moving there. Now that the border is closed, the PDP is saying that why border is closed. And then it's closed all because we want to eat what is going in this country. So many of that is coming.
Yakub,
So
let's
they
limit
should
ourselves to
get
the
prepared,
legal
and
case
then
under consideration. I hear you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate your call. Thank you very much. You're going on to other areas of the polity, but this is not politics. This is straightforward law. It's almost well. Let me not exceed my boundary and stay on my lane. You know, but it is law. I mean, you don't have anything else after the law. He has explored it. The candidate of the PDP has explored all channels that the law provides for, and the president himself in office now has also done the same in the past. But here we are now. Maybe we can just get on with it. Now, you mentioned that the law chiefs, is that what you call them? The law chiefs. The law chiefs.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. They said that they would bring up their reasoning later on. It happens like that sometimes. I mean, why couldn't we have the reasonings? Because sometimes you hear of a judgment and it takes hours to read. Why was this not that kind of a case?
Correct, because one, they just heard the case yesterday. They had read it before, they had summed up the arguments, and they had come up to a conclusion, which they all agreed on. But writing out the reasoning and the arguments usually takes a lot of time, and each of them will have to do it one after the other. And if you see the volumes and volumes of documents they have to go through to write those things, it's not what can be done in a hurry. And that is why they said, well, we know what the conclusion we have reached. We will take our time to write it down for you to keep as a precedent. However, this is the decision we will come to, having heard all the sides of it. And I believe that is why courts usually say we are reserving reasoning till later.
Okay.
But this is a conclusion. But it's not a new thing. It's happened before.
I have on the line. Oh, okay. I lost Joshua from Irewole. Joshua, see if you can get in again. It's as I was saying, it's almost like most, unlearned people can understand it. Quite frankly, that the bottom line is that the case has been dismissed for lack of merit. But in terms of how and you just explained how the reasoning will come on later on, and that was what I had in mind. I had in mind the whole matter of precedence that the law takes very seriously and all of that. Because the next thing I was gonna ask is that were there any particular points of law to be determined as you lawyers split these things and talk about points of law? Is that whole kind of a conversation relevant in this case? Because it seems to me to be facts. But are there any points of law that needed to be determined?
Yeah, I mean, there were points of law that were also raised.
Okay.
And that was non-compliance with the requirements of the Electoral Act. Okay. And in proving a case like the presidential, it is important, according to the law, that you will bring witnesses, people who actually were on ground in the various polling units and local government areas where you are claiming that things were not done right or there was fraud. And given the time frame within which you have to do this in a presidential election with 774 local governments around the country, it is usually an uphill task. So what the plaintiff will find in this kind of case, and what happened in this situation was that even though they brought documents, they had witnesses, they were unable to tie the documents to the witnesses. That is to say that, so I have a witness who comes from Zamfara State in polling unit 005 of this. We cannot bring the documents to match what he's saying. So there was a total lack of coordination between the witnesses they presented and the documents they brought to court.
Okay.
And what they did in legal terms is they brought all the documents to court and just threw it at the face of the court and say, court, you go and determine which one is Zamfara, which one is off. Okay. In court, in law, that is called dumping.
Okay, and it doesn't usually work.
No, it won't work because the judges are not the one to come and start searching for your evidence. Okay. For you should show it to us.
Oh, okay. Mr. Abu Inekeja, good morning, sir.
Hello, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, thank you very much for calling in.
Uncle Yori, sometimes this country can make some people, they make you laugh. When I hear my brother, Boba Galadima, they speak, he say, him and him be the witness, like 5 states in Nigeria. Imagine Borno, Yobe, Bauchi, all one person, I be the witness, like Boa Galadima. And he say yesterday for him, where they call him in the one TV station, how much in him? He say no election. All na somebody sit down somewhere write the result. And when they come to the court, they say they have witness. The witness, when they ask them, where you put them there? They say inside the control room in Abuja. And the witness in Bauchi, how this is going to work? And Kiori, and this is I'm surprised where they hear sometime from this from a strict person for PDP. This is not good for democracy. I beg we can do something about our insecurity where they happen. I'm from Borno State now, almost 10 years. I never go back. My parents speak to you in Cameroon for IDP camp. If I want to call them, I can spend like 3,000 for only for just call Cameroon here. 3,000.
Thank you very much for calling in, Abu, from Ikeja there. I think it was, sort of talking or exemplifying what you had just been speaking about, this whole matter about the witnesses and the whole confusion in there, and hoping that the court might do their work for them. Now, you can't. So that, as you explained, is known as dumping. And
the court will not help you to prove your case. You are the one who has made an allegation that there was fraud here, there was rigging here. It is up to you to come and prove it. But the courts will not help you to prove your case. They listen to both sides, look at the arguments, look at the documents you bring, and reach a conclusion based on what the law says.
Mm-hmm.
The law says you should bring so many witnesses to show from each local government. You have failed to do that. So that makes that point dead on arrival.
Indeed, it doesn't help their case at all. Okay, I think we can take a break here. We need to take a break. Stay with us, please. Mr. Dakwa Akinyoshun is still going to be with us when we come back, and we'll continue to take your calls, your reactions, your comments, whatever they are. Stay with us, please. Welcome back. Still having a conversation with Dakwa Akinyoshun, lead counsel at Simon Cooper Partners, and he actually was at the very, very beginning a member of the President's Defense Team. And we've been looking at the judgment, the decision. By now you know it's old news. Supreme Court has said PDP and Atiku, no case whatsoever. So the president was properly elected. And one of the responses that Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has said, has offered after accepting, well, I don't know that he's accepted. He was admonished or encouraged to accept in good faith the ruling of the highest court in the land. But Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has been recorded as saying that the judiciary has been sabotaged by a dictatorial cabal. Now that's surprising to me because, look, call me naive if you like. The Supreme Court, I thought it was impregnable. So what's anybody going to do? Pick up a phone and talk to somebody, one of the 7 judges, and say that, look, this is what we think. So when we hear about, this is the work of a dictatorial cabal, the Supreme Court, I thought, is different. Cabals, if they exist, are different. Can you see a way in which the two can be sort of brought into connection?
You know, so much has been said about this cabal. And, I think someone said that, who is this cabal? And there's so much allusion to persons supposedly in a cabal. The truth is, whoever is a cabal are friends of the president, or whoever those who are. And every man is entitled to have his friends that he leans on. But what his friends can say to him in the confines of their house or the office is totally different from what goes on in the judiciary. And as we all know, there's a clear separation between the judiciary, legislature, and the executive. And there's no more time that has been shown that even in the last 4 years, in which it almost appeared as if the legislature was at war with every other arm of government. But as it is now, and it's clear, is that each person runs independent. That's why I don't think even the members or friends of the president came into the witness box to give evidence. So it cannot be that there's anything called cabal influencing the judgment of the Supreme Court. 7 independent judges, as we all saw, all sat together, heard the appeal, and made up their minds immediately and said, there is no substance in this appeal at all, no substance.
Okay, Mr. Emmanuel in Atiku, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Chief Fiori.
Good morning, Mr. Emmanuel.
Good morning to the erudite lawyer in the studio.
Morning.
I greet all Nigerians for this day. In fact, the day of success, the day of joy. Well, we thank God that it has finally gone to the Supreme Court, and the court has given its judgment by throwing away the case that it lacked merit. We knew that it was going to end like this. I'm not a lawyer, but common sense tells me that the lower court gave a very comprehensive judgment. They sat and they dealt with every bit of each case that was brought forward. So it was quite comprehensive. Now that it has ended this way, I pray and I expect that Chief Atiku Abubakar and his colleagues, like Yakubu Dogara and Saraki, with John Oyegu, who is in double caps, whether it's APC or PDP, I don't know. And all the Balams that took Atiku to the King Balak in Otafam, I think all of them now should rest in peace that this case has come this way. And we pray that the insecurity across the country will come to naught. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Manuel. Apart from just not understanding the last, 60 or 45, last 30 or 45 seconds of your answer, along with other Nigerians who also would have had a difficulty understanding your last 45 seconds or so. Thank you very much for that call. What we're hearing is that, not surprised. Mr. The man just said that I'm not a lawyer, but I knew, having been reported, having read the reports of the Supreme Court decision, that was a thorough job in there. I remember that, look, I don't know, I don't want to say that they were clutching at straws or anything, but I think you were looking through your notes the other time, and I overheard you bring up mention of things about, they were even contending whether it was Muhammad Buhari or Muhammadu Buhari. Can you bring those kind of things before the Supreme Court?
You see, and that is why the Supreme Court said this thing doesn't really make sense. Because when you are coming to court, you should come with serious issues. And thankfully, for the first time, I believe that the Court of Appeal, when the judgment was being read, we all listened to it live. And everybody could then follow the planks and the strands of the arguments that had been twisted or had been changed in the public perception by the various pronouncements that were being made by the camp of the appellant. But after that judgment, more people could see the planks on which the case actually stood or did not stand. And one of the, almost bordering on level of reducing it to ridicule, when a party comes and says, well, you are Muhammad in one place and you are Muhammadu in another, and therefore you cannot be the same person. And in the course of that case, the party of the appellants or the defendants raised the issue that even the lawyer, the lead counsel to Atiku himself, had different names. The name in which he was called to the inner bar is different from the name in which he was practicing. He was Levi in one and he was Levinos in another. And they said, can we then say you are not the same person?
So if we all wanted to be petty, two can play.
Yeah,
but
two can play. So
we don't want to go there.
They raised and said, look, you signed as Levi, but you were called to the bar as Levinos. And that on its own is what you are saying about Muhammad and Muhammadu.
Indeed.
And somebody came to court and said, Muhammad is, whether you are English speaking or you are speaking from whichever way, is the same person. And is the same person anyway. He was my classmate. Whether you call him Muhammad or Muhammadu, he was my classmate. I knew him from the time we were young. But when you bring those issues in a serious matter, it just kind of shows that they really did not have any serious case. Okay. I was just clutching to straws.
Ehis in Magodo, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Ayore.
Thank you very much for calling in. Go ahead, please.
You have heard me for about 2 minutes.
Oh, we're so sorry. I'm so very sorry. You can
just
understand
want-
that we're trying to follow what the lawyer is telling us, and
no problem.
I didn't want to interrupt him.
No, Allah. I just want to say something, Mr. Ayore.
Sure.
It's good that the judgment has been given, and I believe as it is today, Nigeria will also forge ahead, and those who lost will also accept their fate, because the only place you can appeal to now is God, and while the winners should also try to forge ahead and make Nigeria better. But all I just want to say, which your lawyer there will also understand, me as a person, as a Nigerian, I want to disagree completely that the Nigeria judicial system is completely independent. No, I don't agree. The only thing I will say is this. I don't want to say anything was wrong with the judgment. The judgment is as it is. There is nothing the judges could have done. That is very simple truth. But one thing I just pray we are able to do is to have a good electoral law. Because as it is in this country today, it is very difficult. It's very difficult, as we know, that the body is on those who are alleged to prove. And to prove issues of malpractice in election in Nigeria in the court, Mr. Ayore, is not an easy thing. So I will tell you, if we don't have good electoral law, we will continue to have it this way. For you to have a presidential election or turn, it will be very difficult, except we have a good electoral law that will check all those excesses. It is a fact, Mr. Ayore, that there were issues with the last elections. But proving it will be very difficult according to what the law says. So the judges have no problem. They did what they were supposed to do. So what we just need to work on is the electoral system.
Sorry, sir, but would you be suggesting that we need to have different or better electoral laws, as you put it, so that the burden of proof wouldn't be as stringent?
Yes.
Oh,
we should have
okay.
a better electoral law,
I
so that
see.
the body of proof
I see.
would be as stringent. Take, for example, Mr. Ayore, when you have a station where you have to bring, for example, your witnesses from each ward, each police center, can that be possible? If you remember the judgment of the tribunal, they were saying that some of these persons who were witnesses were just hearsay witnesses, because they were saying what those who were in the police centers told them, because they were not physically there. So, Mr. You understand this kind of situation. Do you know how many police centers we have in Nigeria?
All right.
So how will it be easy for any person who is trying to prove an electoral case to bring witnesses from all the police centers in the federation? Is that possible?
Thank you, Ehis. Really appreciate your call. Interesting thing, Mr. Akinfin. What do you think of those comments?
Well, he has mentioned something that is quite germane, and that is the electoral laws. However, it is not impossible to prove when there's a real case. The situation where, and we've seen it proven before in Nigerian courts, particularly at the gubernatorial level, as has been said earlier, and that is by showing scientifically that the number of fingers that voted, the number of thumbprints they had was beyond possible within the time allotted. And we can do that scientifically. I remember that I was part of the case in Osun State and Aregbesola, and we had taken every ballot paper and tested it. We got fingerprint experts that looked at all the thumbprints on the ballots and said, these fingers are the same ones that thumbprinted so many, so therefore those votes were cancelled. We also looked at the time frame within which you could have thumbprinted so many, and said, how long does it take in the process for one person to thumbprint? And you look at the number and say, look, if it takes 2 minutes for each person to vote, could you have recorded so many votes within the 8 or 10 hours in which voting took place? So there are scientific ways you can go about it. But the issue lies more with, one, in this situation that we had, there was a reference to transmission of votes electronically. The law is that INEC is not allowed to transmit. There's no law that supports electronic transmission of results. You cannot do something outside the law. We have to follow the law. And if that's what the law says at this time, the courts have to follow it. I have argued in time past, and I think that the electoral laws need to be tweaked a bit, particularly in the issue of time frame that is allowed to prove an election now. The time frame was reduced to 6 months to cure an ill. Then in the Aregbesola case, it took almost 3.5 years for the case to be concluded. And I think the law was trying to amend it and say, let us abridge it and say all cases should be concluded in 6 months. But that has proven to be impractical.
Okay.
And I did argue then. I said, look, first of all, the qualification to be a legislator, you don't have to be a lawyer to be a legislator. But can a non-lawyer explain and change the law to say you must finish a case in 6 months? Should the judges allow this, or should judges, in interpreting that law, say that we will qualify it? Because what you now find is that in some cases, you never even get your day in court before the 6 months elapse. By the time you get an, either we're going to stop that, or they will stop interlocutory appeals, which stall the process. But there has to be something that has to give. And in most of the electoral cases now, you find that the judges say, well, everything should be referred together to the Court of Appeal when we finish at this level, but we will not stop. But those timelines are too tight. The court should be given a leeway in which to extend it so that it is not. But as long as the time frame remains 6 months, it's almost impossible to prove any case within that time frame.
Okay. So you would agree with the guy that...
but as long as the laws are there, the judges are independent and they can interpret the law.
That's why the man
what,
said that.
What he's saying about independence, no, they're independent, is their terrain. Nobody is forcing them, but that is what the law is. So what we should be advocating is that those laws should be changed.
Okay. Thank you very much for holding on. Ladi in Akure, Ondo State. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, Sam.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yes, two things I want to quickly say. Yes, some people are of the opinion that the judiciary are not independent. As much as I will agree with them, two things I want them to be clear. In the case of Sanfara, when PDP had no seat won to them, from the court to the Supreme Court, which ends all the case, gave all the seats to PDP. The judiciary was not independent, and Buhari could not influence it. But when it comes to their presidential ticket, this is where all this sharing of our loot is. They consider it as judiciary not independent. Can they be fair to themselves when a seat was not won by them in Zamfara, and the same judiciary gave all the seats to them? And now, secondly, until they themselves decide to say, okay, judiciary, we need to reform. At least they have almost 45% people in the House of Assembly. They should push the reform and let the civil society, let's see whether the civil society will not support their move. But they will always, everybody will say, let's reform. Nobody is ready to go to the House of Assembly to push it through their member there. They have members that are about 45% of the seat. So when those ones start pushing, then we can be talking about reform. Not that when you have lost in one place, you will say they should reform. When you won, they will say, okay, how will they now do this on our own, that they didn't miss it? That means the judiciary also played their judgment on 0 points, which they didn't have any points to win. So I think they should not be deceiving us. All these political issues, they should make it to be so much objective that Nigerians can understand. Thank you and God bless.
Indeed, thank you very much. Well, now, I suppose if the lawyers understand it, that's why you need to be represented by a lawyer, even though there are guys who take on their own defense and all of that. Not that it's the most advisable course of action, as any judge will tell you, but if you insist, hey, that might be the way it is. But
I don't think he means out Rivers. Similar thing happened in Rivers.
Okay. Okay.
And the judiciary was independent then when he went against the sitting government.
Well, I suppose this is the way of man. I think somebody has mentioned it from home that, look, when it goes your way, you say, yeah, the judiciary, thank God for them. They're the last hope of the ordinary man. When it doesn't go your way, then you begin to hear stand-up. I wonder how independent these people really are. I suppose it goes like that around the world. But okay, Joshua, Mr. Joshua, you're back in Irewale. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you for calling in.
I greet your erudite guest,
Mr.
that lawyer.
Sure.
His head is very, very correct. Thank God for him. Uncle Yori, from the appeal court judgment, I called in. We all enjoyed it. I'm not in the judiciary, but those people, they just won my heart for the judiciary. Yay, they were thorough. So I expected that nobody would go to the Supreme Court. But again, they went. I said, okay, that's a good one. They will give us another opportunity to be enlightened further by the Supreme Court. And I'm happy with what the Supreme Court has done. Well, I love the fact that decision first, then details later.
Okay.
You know, that method should be examined very well. That is good. It helps to douse the tension so that there will be no suspense. I think these people are angry that they got judgment too quickly. The things will have dragged till next year so that they can do Christmas before. But you see, whatever it is, I'm happy. That case has no merit. No merit. I don't expect them to go to the Supreme Court. PDP or whatever, I'm not a politician. That's the truth. I am a Nigerian. I love Nigeria. I have no other place to go. You see, when they come to the public to come and be telling us all manners of things, this nation is stupid, judiciary is this, is that, they all belong to this country. Let us put Nigeria first. This idea of bulldozing their way instead of proving their case is no longer working. I think this judiciary is ready to do the right thing, and I'm happy with them. So let all of us accept that, okay, now let's move forward. Use the judiciary as a test case for the other arms of government that do the right thing. If you have merit in your case, you will prove it. There's nothing difficult to prove. Like the Zamfara case, it went for PDP now. So because there's merit in what they are saying, and it could not be influenced. So we have come to a new time. Let us all accept that and move forward. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Well, I suppose Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has indeed adopted that position. You saw that little that caption there. He said he's going to continue fighting for Nigeria's democracy, and the judiciary is a part of the whole democracy. So, you know, it is what it is. Now, well, there's a sense in which most people are saying that at the Supreme Court level, at the appeal court level, we knew how this was going to go. It was a very thorough, he said he was regaled by it. Are you happy that, however, the PDP and Atiku Abubakar took it to the Supreme Court? So we now have a full airing of the issue that is going to go down in the records, which I believe you guys call precedents and that kind of a thing. So it's like, as I mentioned the fact that the president himself, Muhammadu Buhari, has, you know, gone by that particular route. Now somebody is challenging him, has gone through it, and it didn't work. So it's valuable stuff to have in the, if there's any such thing as a precedent's vault.
Oh, definitely. It becomes law of its own, because any subsequent case will follow that line, that if you want to prove a case, don't just come and say that he did not meet the constitutional requirements. Tell us which requirements he failed to meet. Name them one by one. He was supposed to show that he went to school. Did he show that? He didn't show that, we'll take it. But in this case, so they're able to set it clearly, and the law is, the courts are now interpreting it even clearer. That's so that next time someone is coming, we have a precedent to get that. Look, if this man is not showing any, failing to show a certificate or educational requirements, then put that aside. Next, who's Mohammed? Who's Mohammedu? Is that a case there? How do we distinguish in such cases? Done. The box is checked. What do I need to prove that the elections were won? Can there be inconsistencies? If you look at their case, at one point in time, they said we won by 1.5 million votes. By the time they're making final submissions, they had their own submissions came down to 200,000 votes. So.
Okay. You know, maybe we could just take the reaction of the lawyers on both sides to the outcome yesterday.
I don't want to speculate until they give their reasons. No reason has been given, and we've done our best.
We have done the best we could under the strangulating regime of electoral jurisprudence, which not only places undue burden on the petitioner, but also timelines, the period within which such burden must be discharged.
The chapter paragraphs and lines having to do with 2019 election, especially the presidential aspect, has been laid to rest until 2023.
As far as we are concerned, this is the end of this matter. Thank you and good afternoon.
Well, didn't need to mention names there. You know which lawyer was on what side from that particular. And really, there's nothing more to add. I mean, we don't want to belabor the issue unless you wanted to add anything else.
Well, one of the learned colleagues there said, strangulating regime electoral.
That was Ezekome SAN.
And interestingly, I want to refrain from getting political about it. However, these laws were changed under the PDP when they were making it very difficult for the other opposing parties to win elections. And the laws were tweaked and twisted so that it became so difficult. It was not done properly, and there were a lot of discrepancies. But now, unfortunately, they are now on the other side.
All right.
The laws that were meant to keep them in office is now what is keeping them out of. You really wonder that, well, when you are doing things, and that's why it's important that whatever you do, when you're in government or in a position, make sure you do it fairly with the intention that even if I'm not here, will these laws be fair to me?
Yes.
Those are things you should always
in local parlance, so that it doesn't come back and bite you. You know, but no lawyer would put it like that.
No, I'm a lawyer. I understand that.
Thank you very much, Dapo. Mr. Dapo Akin-Osun, attorney at law. Thank you for, the opportunity of sharing in your erudition, as has been attested to by the public. Really appreciate your coming in.
Thank you very much.
Indeed. And so that's our program. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.